You became a prosecutor out of the university? Or?
Yeah, basically that's what happened. That was my first legal job after I got out of law school. I don't come from a family of lawyers, so I didn't really know much about what was the what was the right career path to be taking. But I did know what I watched on TV, which was that you had people who were in a courtroom who liked to make arguments in front of juries, and
Yeah.
so the best place to be able to do something like that uh, was to either work at the prosecutor's office or to work at the public defender's office. So I applied in both places, and the prosecutor at the time, who was Peter Carlisle, he called me first, and
Oh,
so
wow.
so
Okay.
then I ended up working there. Started off in traffic court, just like everybody who's there, prosecuting people who speed or don't have their safety check, or or take change lanes too quickly without signaling. That's honestly where everybody in the Honolulu prosecutor starts off to this day. It's the tradition. Then I moved on to handling much more interesting cases: domestic violence, sex assault cases, murder cases. I did about 50 trials during that time, 50 jury trials. I did a lot of regular like judge trials, and it was a fantastic experience.
I bet. What is it like being in front of a jury, trying to convince people? It's almost like politics, I feel, right? Like trying to
Well,
convince people of your version of the events.
yeah, a little bit, and what I think it is like is there's a lot of trying to explain laws to just regular non-lawyers, regular people who are in the community, and that's actually the great thing about our legal system is that like any decisions that have to be made about whether somebody's guilty or not guilty of a serious crime has to go in front of a jury of somebody's peers. So it's not a bunch of lawyers who are trying to decide whether somebody's guilty or innocent,
Yeah.
or not guilty, I should say. But it's people who are who don't know much about the law or necessarily, and you have to teach them about what the different standards are and what the laws are and things like that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've never been summoned to a jury
Oh wow.
as much as I've like always wanted to. I had a letter, and then they said, "Oh, you have to call on this night to figure out if you were selected," and then that wasn't. They said it was settled out of court or something. So, and
So
that
I
was
think if you, James, knowing like all the work that you've done in the community and all the things that you've accomplished in your life, just trying to be involved in things, pretty sure you would be the foreperson.
Oh, yeah.
I think if people
I
saw you
appreciate
on a
that.
jury, they'd be like, let's make this guy the foreperson because he's a go-getter and he likes to
And we don't want to do
get
it.
involved.
No.
Yeah. It's like that kind of responsibility
Yeah.
to have to jump in to do something like that.
How long were you at the prosecutor's office?
So that was a total of, let me count it out. So 7 + 4. So 11 years, 11,
Oh,
12
wow.
years.
Nice.
Yeah. Of which the last 4 years was basically being like the number two person. So I was like what you call it is like the deputy or the chief deputy, the first deputy. There's a lot of different terms for it, but basically it's like the right hand guy. So I was Peter Carlisle's number two person in the office.
The right hand man. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I can see now, like when he ran for mayor and then won, of course.
Right.
He knew you would be the guy that would get the job done for him.
Yeah. So exactly, and so he, of course, got a phenomenal personality.
Yeah.
Just is a very very funny guy. Just very outgoing. Just big time people person. And so when he did run for mayor back in 2010, it was a gosh, what do you call it? It was the thing where the previous mayor had stepped down to run for governor, and so it was boy, I'm liking out. It's not a regular election; it's a special election.
Oh, special
Yeah,
election.
yeah. So that's essentially it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I didn't even think about that.
So it
Yeah.
was kind of winner take all, and I think everybody knew who Peter Carlisle was. He had established quite a reputation for just really going after some very tough criminals and things like that. So when he got elected, then he needed somebody to be kind of his again his chief deputy, chief of staff, right hand person, and so there's this title in the mayor's office called the managing director, and I think what people told him was it's more important that you have somebody. Actually shouldn't speak for him, but this is what I
Yeah.
heard from him is that
Watch
it's
out.
more important. It's more important for him to be with somebody that he trusts than somebody who has a lot of experience who he doesn't necessarily know very well. And I think that, and so I think he took that advice because I didn't really know much about the city, and so it was quite a it's quite a lesson, like a real, like drinking from a fire hose or standing in front of a waterfall and just letting a lot of pressure and force come upon you. But that's what it was to go from just kind of being a prosecutor where life was so simple and you're basically like, this is somebody who's accused of a crime, so I've got to find the evidence to find them guilty. To now we're talking about sewers and garbage and potholes and roads and the police and the first responders and the parks and recreation and the beaches and people who are using concessions and selling concessions on the beach or Hanama Bay. And it's what the city ends up doing is such a large part of the community. And it's not just like your kind of like the regular stuff that you need to be able to to function through life. It's also like all the fun stuff. It's Honolulu City Lights. There's so many things that are involved. And it was I still to this day I say that was the toughest job I ever had.
I bet.